Leafs crush the Lightning to even up the series at 1 game apiece. Today, we'll recap the big win for you guys and look ahead to a pivotal Game 3 in Tampa Bay Saturday night. You're listening to the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.
You're Locked On Maple Leafs, your daily podcast on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome into the April 21st edition of the Locked On Leafs podcast, your one-stop shop for all things Leafs. I'm your host, Mike DiStefano from TSN 1050 Toronto Radio, also known as Al's brother on TSN's Overdrive and TSN 1050's Leafs Lunch. Joining me, it's my co-host, Dave Morassutti from Sportsnet, also a writer for the NHLPA. Locked On Leafs, a daily Maple Leaf-centric podcast, so be sure to subscribe for free wherever you get your podcasts from. Also, check us out on YouTube. Subscribe. We would really appreciate that. We got new content coming out each and every weekday. That's right. 5 shows a week, minimum Monday through Friday. It's all Leafs all the time. If you consider yourself part of Leafs Nation, you got to join the Locked On Leafs family and become an everydayer of this podcast. Big time response, David. A big time response.
Huge response. They played that like it was a game 7. We said they needed to have a bit of a game 7 like attitude going into this one, and they certainly did.
Yeah, I mean that game really was going to be all about how it started, and it started perfectly for Toronto. I don't think you could have scripted a better first period, realistically, right? I think Austin Matthews, and Mitch Marner, they start the game themselves, and Mitch Marner draws a penalty like 30 seconds into the game, basically 40 seconds, I think, and then they score like 5 seconds into the power play, and next thing you know, you're less than a minute into the game, and it's 1-0. What was weird about tonight's game is how eerily similar it was to game 1, just the complete opposite script.
Yeah.
But it's like Toronto got off to scored a goal early in the game, and then they got a second goal, and then next thing you know, it was 3-0 by the end of the first period, and then they kind of started to pile on in the second, and then both teams kind of traded a goal in the third period, but it was already curtains by that point. It was very similarly reminiscent to game 1. But of course, this time around, Toronto ends up with a 7-2 win instead of the 7-3 loss.
It was, when you bring up how similar it was, I saw this tweet from David Alter, and it said, last night through the last game through 2 periods, Samsonov 23 saves on 29 shots through 2 periods. Andrei Vasilevsky 23 saves on 29 shots.
There you go. And that is insane. I mean, the Leafs got 7 past Vasilevsky. If that doesn't inspire confidence in Leafs Nation that this guy's beatable, and you're not going to get 7 on that guy probably again in this series, but through 2 games you've put 10 past him. He's beatable this year. And that blue line is putrid right now. I mean, with no Hedman tonight, Chernak's out for the time being. There's a very thin blue line group. We saw it tonight. They got kind of picked on a little bit by Toronto, and that's what they had to do tonight. And I thought that it really made it difficult for Vasilevsky. I mean, I thought that he struggled with his rebound control also. Like, he was a little off tonight. But what this tells me is, man, might be beatable going forward. So Toronto can just stick to the similar game plan that they had going into tonight, forechecking, putting a lot of pressure, getting pucks in deep, and then, working their way down walls and just getting pucks on net and shooting low, creating rebounds. That's how this team's going to end up winning games, right? So I thought that they executed exactly what they wanted to do pretty much from the get-go. Terrific first period. Samsonov made a couple of big stops early, and that kind of settled him. I thought he was far better. I was speaking to him. Well, I was with the rest of the media contingent speaking to him after the game, and he even said himself, like, he was nervous in the first game, his first playoff game as a Maple Leaf, but then definitely coming into tonight didn't feel the same nerves and was definitely more settled, and you could tell right away. I mean, that guy was way more dialed in. And it showed, and it helped this Maple Leafs team, build that lead, and then really was able to establish it as the game progressed. But overall, man, I got to tip my cap to the team as a whole. I thought everybody stepped up big, and not just offensively, but defensively, and also from a physicality perspective as well.
Yeah, they didn't back down. We knew Tampa knows that the Leafs are gonna outskill them just because of how the lineups are constructed. And that bottom six is all meant to be the disruptor. Like, they were gonna try to do whatever they can to throw the Leafs off their game physically. And the Leafs are just like, we're not gonna take it.
Nope.
And that was huge, especially in that third period. What a gong show. Not only on the ice, but off the ice too.
Okay. So I didn't could you see what was happening from where you were sitting? Because we were both at the game. I was up in the press box and you were sitting in the seats. Could you see exactly what was going on? Because I mean, it was in front of me, but it was down low.
Yeah.
And by the time I figured out that there was something happening, it was kind of done. And I think security was already escorting that person in yellow gone. But what exactly happened?
Yeah, so when Jeannot went to the penalty box, the guy in the yellow sweater, who's now the most famous man in Toronto right now,
Yeah.
got up on, they were going at it. And he
But it
got
was just a screaming, it was just chirping, right? Like,
yeah,
he
and
didn't
the guy
throw
kind
anything
of
at him.
climbed up on the glass to get to really, because the glass sometimes you can't hear. So I
Yeah,
guess
it was almost like a Ty Domi
yeah,
situation. It was, I watched the lawsuit,
yeah,
basically at that point.
one of my
But what
favorite.
I was trying to figure out was, he didn't throw, beer at him or anything like
I
that.
didn't see that. No, I
Okay.
didn't see that.
What about the second time around when then, Corey Perry started getting into it and, was pointing to a fan saying, "Get that guy out of here." Even that was what is going on here with these
Well,
fans?
my
That
favorite
was
person
that was
was the
nuts.
lady just smashing the glass and just giving it to Jeannot, and people just like, well, what are you gonna do with it? You can't do anything. Like, she's not doing anything wrong. You're allowed to hit
No.
her. Yeah, the Corey Perry one was also interesting too because it was almost like it became a run. Like, everyone decided to meet up in front of the penalty box and just decide they were all going to give Corey Perry crap. The arena, on top of everyone in Scotiabank Arena cheering Corey Perry sucks.
Perry sucks.
Yeah,
Perry sucks. That was
beautiful.
awesome.
But yeah, no, I don't. I just think that the Lightning players, even from the very start of the game, they were off their game in that, they were complaining for calls. There were a lot of complaints. There was a lot of time spent with Lightning players talking to the refs in this one. And yeah, they were way too focused on things that were going on around them rather than what was happening on the ice in this one.
Yeah. One other thing that I want to touch on before we get to our three starts of the game and start to break things down a little more is um, we definitely criticized Sheldon Keefe for his performance that he had in game one. Not having his team prepared is on the coach. And then his insistence on line matching throughout the game and especially early on. I felt that it really kind of killed the vibe and rhythm of his star players. And it was just kind of nonsense what was going on. Tonight, I like the fact that he was on the offensive and right from the jump, right? We know how things work out. The opposing team submits their opening night lineup first, and then the home team gets to submit their counter lineup. And the fact that Rielly was on the board for the Tampa Bay Lightning to come out right at the puck drop, and he went with Austin Matthews' line and said, "I'm going to challenge Austin, or we're going to challenge together that Rielly line without Hedman back there as a last line of defense. Good luck. We're coming at you." And they did. And it was a very, very successful night, I would say, with that line taking on Anthony Rielly. I'm just checking right now to see exactly what their final tally was for minutes, but they played against one another. So he was the highest forward that he played against tonight. 7 minutes and 25 seconds of 5-on-5 ice time that Matthews played against Anthony Rielly. So there was no backing down, and had an 87% expected goals in tonight's game. 87% against Anthony Rielly. He took it to him. He challenged him and said, "You're going to play against this guy. You're going to be better than this guy. Make sure you go out there and do it." And he did right from puck drop throughout the entire game. I think that's a big, time confidence booster for him and should be for the Maple Leafs because that takes away one of the matchups that Sheldon Cooper, what is this?
I was
Big
like,
Bang Theory? Big Bang Theory, that John Cooper, Sheldon Keefe and John Cooper. It's anyways, John Cooper takes away one of his matchups that he probably was thinking that he thought would probably work in game 3. I don't know. I wouldn't be so confident anymore because they got jobbed when they kind of punched him in the mouth in game 2.
yeah, no, for sure. And John Cooper even said after the game, like they were asking, "Oh, was it more?" I guess I mean you would probably know exactly what the question was, but talking about the Leafs
Yeah,
making the change that's with 3 centers.
I actually thought it was a pretty good question. Luke Fox asked the question. I thought it was actually
My
pretty
boy,
good.
Luke.
That's your boy, Luke Fox. Absolutely. Shout out. He asked the question, like, how different is it defending when, they go 3 centers deep like that? And in a very cocky response, John Cooper said, well, don't we have 3 centers as well? Like, what
Yeah, I
3
would take.
centers are you referring to? And
I
it's
would
like,
take.
what?
He said, "What I would take Point, Cirelli, and who was the third one that he named?
Paul, yeah. He
Nick
said that,
Paul."
like, after this, like,
Yeah,
his initial response was like, "Don't we have 3 centers too? Like, what 3 centers? Doesn't every team have?" Or no, I think what he said was, "Isn't there 4 centers? I think every team has 4." And then he's like, "Look, I'll take Point, Cirelli, and Paul on my team any day against anyone in the league." Yeah, something to that effect.
yeah,
And, I wouldn't, personally, as good as those guys are, I mean, in terms of just flat out skill, I mean, you could talk about intangibles, the fact that those guys have gone on and won Stanley Cups.
yeah,
At least the two of them, Nick Paul going to a cup final last year with them. Yeah, sure, they've got those intangibles and that experience. So, and it's his guy, of course. What else is he going to
yeah,
say?
exactly.
But I would say that Matthews, Tavares, and Ryan O'Reilly probably the 3 deepest center core in the NHL. I would say right now. So that's definitely it's an interesting answer he decided to give on that question. But what do you expect? What do you expect from that guy? I didn't expect anything less. I mean, he's very much calculated with everything he says in the media. He's not going to give Sheldon Keefe any flowers or credit for that adjustment.
No,
Instead, he's going to try and deflect and just say, nah, I mean, my players are the best. I'll take them any day. Really? Any day, any game, anytime. How about tonight when they beat the crap out of you 7-2 with that configuration? You still want them? You know what I'm saying? You
yeah.
know what I'm saying, Dave? You know what I'm
Oh,
saying?
I know what you're saying.
All right, buddy. Let's take a quick break. We can continue recapping the 7-2 win for Toronto as they even up the series as it heads to Tampa Bay. We'll also get to our 3 stars and tee up game 3 as well, which is coming down on Saturday. So we'll tee that up for you as well. Before we continue, though, let me tell you guys about one of today's show sponsors, and it's our good friends at eBay Motors. For a championship team, it's all about making sure that every player is a perfect fit. It's the same when it comes to your vehicle. Every part needs to fit just right. So the next time you need parts and accessories, head to eBay Motors. With eBay Guaranteed Fit, you can be sure that every part you need fits just right the first time around. Just add your ride to My Garage and look for the green check marks so that you know that the part will fit or your money back. Because just like in sports, confidence is the name of the game. And when you shop on eBay Motors, confidence is key. And with over 122 million parts to choose from, you'll be back in the game in no time. After all, it's easy to bring home a win when the right parts are guaranteed. Get the right parts, the right fit at the right prices on ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. Welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast. I'm Mike DiStefano. I've got my co-host Dave Morassutti with me. We're reacting to a Maple Leafs 7-2 clobbering over the Tampa Bay Lightning. A terrific game for Toronto. Before getting to the 3 stars, is there anything else that you wanted to make sure that you did note on tonight's game?
I mean, the crowd was amazing. Like
Hmm.
the crowd was really good. Shout out to the guy sitting right beside me. He was just like, because he heard me say, "Oh, I see Mike," because I was talking to my sister who brought me to the game. Shout out to her for bringing me to the game. There's
Yes.
no way I was going to that game without her giving me the ticket. And the guy's just like, wait, are you Dave? I'm like,
No way.
we had a locked on listener sitting right beside me for a good chunk of the game. And he was just like, until he said he wasn't sure until I said your name that he's like, oh, wait. Yeah, I listen to you guys every day.
Oh, nice. He's an everydayer. This
He's an
guy's an
everyday.
everydayer, part of the Locked On family. Love it. Shout out to the guy. Did you get his name?
Yeah, Sahil.
Sahil?
Yeah.
Shout out Sahil. Shout out. Thank you for being an everydayer and listening to the show. We love to hear it. But yeah, man, like the crowd was great tonight, right from puck drop. They had to be, obviously. But what it is the Maple Leafs let them stay great. Like the crowd was just as loud in game one, probably louder to be honest with you, to start game one. But then what happened, right? Pat Maroon shoved in a rebound a minute and some odd seconds into the game, and that took the wind out of the sails. Toronto did not let that happen. They let the atmosphere start high and continue to build. It was great. And then the fight started, and you got Luke Shen feeding dudes their lunch money at Justin Hall. Dropped Geo. When Geo fought, that place erupted because Geo.
Gee, I heard that.
Yeah, dude, the Geo chants were coming down. I mean, what was funny about that is I didn't realize until I saw the replay because like there's so much going on when there's like big line brawl scrums like that. They don't really see everything at once, so you had to catch a replay. I didn't realize that he originally was trying to fight Belmar. I think Belmar was up for it as well. And then Bogosian just came in and was like, "Nope, I'm fighting you." So literally, Geo tosses his gloves. Belmar went to do the same. Instead, Geo says, "Nope," or Bogosian, "Nope, I'm fighting." And all of a sudden, it's Bogosian versus Geo, and Geo's feeding that guy right. It was
Bogosian had a rough night in a lot of ways, and I was very happy about that.
Yeah, he definitely did. A lot of guys on that team did. Like I said, it's literally I guarantee you, Adam Danker, a Locked On Lightning. If you guys go listen to a show, I bet you he's saying a lot of the similar things that we said after game one about his players in game two. Because it honestly was just like a carbon copy of each game, just the script was flipped. It was Toronto who was the best team tonight, and Tampa who played maybe one of their worst games. I would imagine, one of at least on the year. Let's get into our 3 stars of the game, Dave. And it was so hard for me to come up with just 3 guys. I didn't even cheat this time, Dave. I didn't even cheat. I know I could have cheated. Actually, I'm going to cheat, just so you know, on the fly because I realized I forgot somebody in my 3 stars. So I am going to cheat. But let's start with the 3rd star, as usual. Who are you giving it to?
I'm cheating right off the hop. I'm going to go with the third line of Knies, O'Reilly, and Achari.
Dude, pretty good.
Matthew Knies should never sit unless he has an absolute train wreck of a game because that dude deserved to play in the playoffs.
I had a question for you, and it's a bit of a toughie. If Michael Bunting only was suspended for 1 game, would he be back in the lineup for game 3?
Man, I just don't know how you can take Matthew Knies out. He looked so good. He looked so dangerous. And you know what? He was pretty good on both ends of the ice. That's the other thing.
Yeah, he did. He made a couple of really nice plays. Did definitely make some nice stick plays. And
if he scored on that one chance that I think it was Perbix. Remember the Norris guy, that Norris Trophy winner that we were all talking about?
Oh, the next Nick Lidstrom.
Yeah. Got his jockstrap turned around by Knies and then takes it to the net. Almost scores on, and Vasilevsky made a beautiful save. If he scored on that, the place would it was loud. I think the roof would have gone off of Scotiabank Arena at that point.
Yeah, probably would. Like that was the only thing that it really was missing was a goal from Matthews.
I'm bored. Yeah, I'm a little pissed with Kerfoot on that one because there was a chance for Knights to score in this game.
I mean, the funny part is there was chances for a few guys to score throughout this game. If I remember there was a chance Kerfoot, he could have put it backdoor for Tavares on one of the plays, and he just didn't. He took a shot on goal and got swallowed up by the tendy. And I was like, backdoor tap in for Tavares on the rush. But c'est la vie. They scored 7 anyway, so let's not be too picky about about what that guy could or could not have done.
So you're asking me if I were to take somebody out, if Bunting were to go back in, it would be Kerfoot.
Really?
Kerfoot was decent tonight. I will say defensively he was good. But if Sheldon Keefe is adamant on getting Bunting back in, I just don't know how you can take Matthew Knies out after a game like that.
Well, you're not even considering like Lafferty or Zach Aston-Reese.
You could, yeah, you definitely could.
I think those guys would be ahead of Kerfoot. Like Kerfoot's probably the 4th or 5th guy on the list who comes
yeah,
out of the game.
like Aston Reese, he scored as well. The first,
I thought they actually had a really solid game. Like that
yeah,
4th line had a really, really good
they
game.
had
They
tough
spent a lot
matchups
of
too. They
really tough matchups, and they spent a lot of time in the offensive end too. Like it was honestly a terrific game out of those guys. I thought that they played fantastic, and they got rewarded with a goal. Zach Aston-Reese, like all 3 of those guys combined on that goal. Lafferty did the work in in the corner, brought the puck out, and then Camp gets a shot on net, and then following up on the rebound was Zach Aston-Reese, and that's how you're going to score goals from the 4th line. That's how Perry and Maroon score their goals most of the time. So that's how you're going to need to do that and get those goals. So I did think that they had a really good game too. Those were guys who I was thinking like an honorable mention as the 4th line. So I'm glad we got it in there as an honorable mention. But
who's your 3rd star?
Yeah, I'm probably this might surprise you. This might surprise you a little bit. But I actually thought that Justin Hall had a pretty good game. In particular, the first couple periods, I thought he had a good game. I liked the first period especially. He was somebody who, when they really needed him to come through, when it was still an attainable game for Lightning to get back into on the power play, came up with not 1 but 2 big time blocks, and he also made a really good stick play to break up a rush chance as well. So those 3 plays individually in the first period, when the game was very much still up for grabs, despite the start that Toronto was having, like those were some big plays, and I think that he deserves to get his flowers, because we sat here and we dumped on him after game 1 where he was awful. He was on the ice for 6 goals. It's inexcusable. When you do that, it was a bad night. But ultimately, he bounced back pretty well, I thought. I know he was on the ice for a goal, but I still think that he bounced back and had a pretty good game, all things considered. So I did want to give him a little bit of love with my 3rd star.
Yeah, I thought he was. I think his value was on the penalty kill in this game. I thought,
Yeah.
there's still some of those Justin Hall moments, but they didn't cost the Leafs really. And even on the goal, it wasn't all his fault. Nylander kind of was overcompensating a bit in the defensive zone, and that let Ian Cole get free.
Yeah.
But otherwise,
Ian Cole's not Hall's guy, right? Like
no,
ultimately, but
no, he's not. The defenseman. If you have a defenseman covering a defenseman in the defensive zone, there's something wrong with your coverage there.
yes,
So, I think, I know I didn't. I like again. There was moments, but I thought overall it was a good bounce back game for him.
for
I just
sure.
it couldn't get any worse after game 1.
The first period, he had an expected goals for highest on the team at 96%. Justin Hall did at 5-on-5. And that's at 5-on-5. And we just talked about how a lot of what he did tonight was noticeable on the penalty kill. Played pretty well at 5-on-5 as well. The numbers started to go down as the game wore on. But I still think that he definitely can build off of the performance that he had in tonight's game. All right, your 2nd star, Dave.
Little background story. This shirt, I was debating what my fit was going to be for tonight. I saw this shirt. I'm like, I need to manifest something. I need to someone's got to get their confidence going. I'm going to see if I can turn around. You can see who I got on the back here.
Oh, that's also my 2nd star, Dave.
Mr. Morgan Rielly. He's been getting dumped on all season long. He comes out. He's like, you know what? Team needs a little bit of a boost, especially offensively. 4 assists. What a night for Morgan Rielly.
Yeah, he was dancing, man. He really was dancing tonight. I thought that he was excellent. Obviously, he was someone who I also have in my as my one of my top guys tonight. And when Morgan Rielly is playing like that, when he's activating in the offensive end and he's making those crisp passes and setting guys up that way, dude, the amount of like, it just makes them so much better. You know what I mean? Like, legitimately, it makes them so much more dangerous. That's what I was looking for. It just adds another element to their game, and it makes that offense that much more dangerous when he's doing stuff like that. Like, think back to the second goal where they win the was that the one where they won the yeah, they snap back the face off and he goes down the wall and then gets it to Tavares for the second goal, right? And then the fourth goal, a nice little play coming up with speed, a little give and go with the Willie. He could get, kind of deflects it on net, and then Tavares finished it off with another little rebound there. And I just thought that he was excellent all night long, played well defensively too. Like he wasn't someone who I was looking at and saying, man, he's at position, or I wish that he would have done this, done that, gapped up well. He was staying on top of pucks. Morgan Rielly probably had one of his best games of the season tonight, and he couldn't have picked a better time to do it. I just hope that he can build off it and continue to do it in games 3 through however many there are, because they're going to need it. They are going to need it because when he can play at his best, he is a really good defenseman, and he is a good piece of this offense. And based off of that, I mean, he's obviously a defenseman, but he can just give you a completely new dimension on your team when he's playing that high level of hockey. And I thought that he definitely was that tonight.
Yeah, all 4 of his assists were primary assists,
Yeah.
and his mom and dad were in the building tonight. They were in town to watch.
Nice. Good to see. I know Tavares too. Like post game, Tavares was asked about Rielly, and it was funny because in the playoffs they do like the players sit beside each other to do their press conferences. So it was O'Reilly and Tavares, and Rielly does not like to be talked about. He's a very humble person. So when he heard the question about asking Tavares to explain what makes Rielly so good on nights like this, he was getting so flustered. It was kind of funny to see. But Tavares is just talking about how like the guy just continues to, when he's moving his feet and he's bringing the puck up the ice, he's transporting it from the defensive end up to the forwards, up to the offense, just getting the puck out of the zone really, really quickly. And then often, skating it up there himself and providing that little extra, offense by having an extra body out there in the offensive end. So especially off the rush. And, tonight he was really, really good. All right. First star of the game. Well,
he's sitting right. He's right behind me, right over there.
Is it the captain? Are you going with the captain?
Oh, how could you not go with the captain?
I know. The cheat could be, the core 4. That's the cheat. Like all the big boys came to play tonight. Let's be honest.
They did.
They all came to play. I thought Willie was really good. He was dancing. Marner and Matthews, they were solid tonight. But obviously the guy who really got it done tonight was the captain, John Tavares. A hat trick. Hats rained down for about 47 minutes. It was actually annoying how long we had to wait to get the puck drop because hats just kept coming.
The refs were just like at one point, like, guys, just drop the damn.
Literally, just drop it. Then they'll stop throwing hats. Let's go. It was crazy how long it took for them to get going because people were just throwing hats. It's like, hey, come on. It's if you missed out on it, like that's your business.
I'm on those. If they start, like, if the face-off's being brought together, guys ready to line up.
Don't throw your hat. You lost out on a chance to toss it. That's it. But hey, dude was unbelievable tonight. All over it tonight. And
best game I've seen him play in a Leafs sweater.
Yeah,
and I think this was his best game as a Leaf.
Man, it was a good time to have it. Good freaking time to have it, that's for sure.
If that's a John Tavares we're gonna see in the playoffs, oh boy, a lot of teams are gonna have a lot of trouble because it was like Nylander was so good, and teams are like, oh, we got to pay attention to Nylander, and Tavares like, okay, so that means I'm gonna get all the rebounds and all the chances in front. Like, what a night for him. Like, it was nice to see because we hadn't seen that from him in the playoffs.
Yeah, absolutely. Was that his staple game? I guess you would say that probably the staple game of his career so far, whether it's on the power play or at 5-on-5. Like, I thought that he certainly had a big night, with the hat trick. obviously, in leading this team. But Dave, it really at this point, just like game one, you kind of flush the performance down the toilet. It didn't matter. It was all about what happened in game two. And now, unfortunately, as sweet as that victory was, you got to kind of flush the performance down the toilet again, because game three, buckle up, man. You're not gonna have the same depleted and battered and really crappy Bolts team that you played at home in game two. It's gonna be another challenge for game three. So why don't we take one more break? We'll come back and we'll kind of turn the page onto Saturday night and help tee up game three between the Leafs and the Lightning. I'm Mike DiStefano with Dave Morassutti. Listen to the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast. You hear that? The
I hear
sirens? You hear
Yeah,
the sirens?
is that
I
for
wonder.
is that for the Tampa Bay Lightning, or did they call an ambulance to try to?
Well, I think Corey Perry was like beating up some homeless people out there because he just is a massive villain and he just wants to go beat people up for no reason, like we saw happen in the third period. Maybe Pat Maroon might be joining him as well. Potentially a Tanner Janot could be in the mix too. There's a bunch of guys out there that I wouldn't doubt that they're beating up homeless people in the city of Toronto, because that's just the type of people that they seem to be.
Yeah, it was nice to see that when Patrick Maroon got that hit, I think it was Justin Hall behind
Yeah.
the line in the first period. No call whatsoever. Does the same exact thing in the third period to William Nylander, and it's like, yeah, no, you're gone.
The officiating in this series has been it's been interesting. I mean, obviously, game one was a mess in terms of terrible calls. I thought they let a little bit more stuff go today, but there were still a couple things where it's like, nah, really? Like that Matthew Knies penalty to start the game. I thought that was a little ticky tacky. I didn't like that too much. I thought that was unfair on the kid. There's another one that I do remember being like, it's pretty soft. Can't recall which one it was right now, but there was a couple of soft calls. But either way, man, it didn't matter. It turned out that the Maple Leafs are able to kill off those power plays, and they were able to build momentum off them anyways when they did take the penalty. So that was definitely a good thing, and that's something they got to carry into game three. I think that you look at the special team success that they were able to have tonight, and that's exactly what this team's going to have to do moving forward. Special teams is so important in the playoffs. I'm telling you, man, like it really is sometimes the difference between winning and losing a series. And because that's exactly how they got on the board tonight to start things off, right? They won that game, or they earned that first power play, and then they were able to go in there, and then they were able to score, and they just kept going. Ended up with what, 2-3 power play goals tonight, I want to say.
2 for sure.
Yeah, and then they killed off. Actually, I have the event summary. I can pull it up literally right now, and I could see for sure 1, 2. Yeah, so they scored 2 goals on the power play, and they didn't allow a single goal on the penalty kill after allowing 4 the night before. So that to me was a big difference in tonight's game, was the success in special teams, and they got to carry that over to game 3 as well.
They do, and what they need to also carry over to game 3. In the second period, there might have been like a good 4 to 5 minute stretch where the Leafs just stayed in the Lightning zone.
Yes.
And the cheers and applause, because the Leafs, I don't know how the Leafs did not score in that time period, because they were all over Tampa. If you take that and you do that in Tampa, that's the stuff that has to carry over. It's hard to carry over momentum and things from game to game, but to be able to see it means that this team can do it, and they should be able to.
What's funny is, I know you're talking, it was like midway through the second period, like the Matthews line came out. They had some great pressure against Rielly and Sergachev, and then it rolled into Ryan O'Reilly, Tavares, and Nylander, and they just continued to apply pressure. And then they didn't score. Tampa withstood it, and actually they ended up scoring right after. That was the Ian Colo goal that he ended up scoring. Was like after 4 minutes of pure pressure, and all of a sudden they finally get the puck out and they go and they score and they make it 3-1. It's like, okay, the next goal is going to be huge. And then they did end up, Nylander ends up, helping out getting that goal over to Tavares, and boom goes the dynamite, as they say. That was it. That was game over, curtains, and it was good. So special teams, definitely something that they got to do for game 3. All right, what else are you keying in on for the Maple Leafs in game numero 2?
Well, you got to think about now the series shifts to Tampa, so you're gonna now that the lineup is in a better spot, you're basically saying to Tampa, it doesn't matter who you're throwing over the boards, we can match up with any line you're gonna throw out there. So I think that mindset needs to continue in game 3, and on top of that, it's in Tampa. You're not gonna have the home crowd, so you're gonna have to take that crowd out early.
Yeah.
The start, we've now realized how important the start is for the Leafs.
Yes.
If
Yeah.
they can get off to a good start, they don't have to score in the first minute. Be nice. They don't necessarily have to, but you got to weather that storm in the first 10 minutes and give
Yeah.
yourself every chance to make sure the Lightning don't grab momentum early.
Well, that's where Samsonov's going to have to come up big. And I think this has to be a game where I'm going to make a prediction. The Leafs won't win this game, or the only way that the Leafs actually win this game, rather, I'll phrase it this way. The only way the Leafs win this game is if Samsonov steals it.
Yeah.
Because I go look at the statistics of Andrei Vasilevsky after a loss in the playoffs.
Yeah, Ailish Forfar tweeted. She says, "Don't Google it." And guess what? How many people do you think Googled it after that loss?
Do you have the actual numbers? Do you have the number handy on you?
I don't have it. I can get in 2 seconds, but I'm pretty sure last year in the playoffs he was 17-0 following a loss in the playoffs.
They didn't lose 17 times.
In the last, not last year alone, in the 3-year run of Andrei Vasilevsky.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. No, because he lost one game because they lost back-to-back games in Colorado.
That's when it ended.
Yeah, so he went 17 straight games where they didn't lose 2 in a row. So that's where you're looking, and you're like, okay, you know that Andrei Vasilevsky, after giving up seven goals in the game, in game 2, you're not going to have that same luxury in game number 3. That guy's going to be on the top of his game, I believe, and goals are going to be really hard to come by, which means Ilya Samsonov, I'm really circling him. This is one where he's got to steal. I've always believed that really in order for the Maple Leafs to truly win this series, Samsonov was always going to have to steal a game. It was always going to have to happen. Whether they won, 1 in 5, 6, 7, I still believed that Sammy was going to have to steal a game. And to me, going into Tampa for game 3, coming off of this bad of a loss, I feel like this is the one. This is the moment where Samsonov comes up big, has to come up big, and ultimately puts Toronto up 2-1 and takes away home ice advantage, which is now, in Tampa's court, right? Tampa right now, they've got 3 games at home. Toronto only has 2 more games left on home ice. So you go in, you get that game 3 victory, you go up 2-1, you take away home ice advantage, and all of a sudden you're leading the victory, and maybe a little bit of doubt starts to creep up into Tampa's mind. Maybe they start to think, maybe we are hitting a wall. I mean, if they give up another 3, 4, 5 goals, I mean, that's very uncharacteristic of the Tampa Bay Lightning. But guess what? We watched it happen tonight. It's very impossible to do. It's going to be extremely difficult to do, especially on the road. And I would imagine Hedman will also be returning in that game because, boy, did they ever miss him. A 50% Hedman is still better than Bogosian and friggin' Hayden Fleury. So, he just is.
So this was from last year. So this was, I think, after the game 1 loss. This was Andrei Vasilevsky's numbers since 2020. 17-0, a 1.47 goals against average, and a 942 save percentage with 5 shutouts.
That was heading into May 12th. That would have been after game 5.
Yeah, it was after one of those.
So that would have been going into game 6.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was going into game 6.
And I think it got better as the playoffs went along, but like that was one of them.
Well, he won game 6, so he went 18-0. Like that did add to it, and he was unreal in that game also. So yeah, definitely it added to that. I think that streak did get broken in the cup final. They did lose back-to-back games, I remember in Colorado, because they won what 5, right? So there had to be a back-to-back game. But either way, I still think that he's going to be really freaking good because it's Andrei Vasilevsky. Like, that guy's the best goalie on the planet for a reason. And, is Samsonov as good as him? No, he's not. But can he be as good as him? I mean, the way he played tonight was pretty freaking awesome. If he could just replicate that, I think that the Maple Leafs have a pretty good shot. I mean, they did a good job of also just not allowing a whole lot in front of him too. That certainly helps compared to how much they did not protect the net in game 1. I think they only had 7 high danger chances. Yeah, they had 7 high danger chances the entire game at 5-on-5 tonight. Only 7. It's crazy. They had a 1.48 expected goals at 5-on-5. So there wasn't a whole lot. Not a whole lot. Even they didn't have a single high danger chance on the power play. That's actually kind of impressive and crazy. Now I look at it. Not a single high danger chance given up on the power play. So throughout the entire game, he only faced 7 high danger chances. That's on the defense. The defense played very, very well tonight. That includes the forwards supporting as well. Overall, great game by the Maple Leafs. Pretty much going forward, maybe play like that from the get-go. It'll probably win a lot of games. Just saying. Play with that type of intensity, that type of physicality, that type of playmaking, that type of finishing, the puck battles that were being won on a consistent basis to keep play alive in the O-zone, to keep pressure on those young defensemen and those inexperienced defensemen. That's what this team has to do going forward, ultimately, and they will win this series. If they continue to play the way they did tonight, there's no doubt in my mind the Toronto Maple Leafs are winning this freaking series. No doubt in my mind.
And there's nothing that makes you think they can't do it, because it wasn't like they played great, but they didn't do anything extra special. Like, oh, we've never seen the Leafs do this before. We've seen them do this before. That's the crazy part. It's just we got to see it on a consistent basis, guys.
They just played their game.
Yeah.
I think they really did. Now, they were a little, I mean, we've never seen 3 fights in a game before.
No.
There was far more physicality and hatred in this game, and that's, what you expect to see of the playoffs. And they were there. They answered the bell, and it's exactly what you wanted to see, right? They wanted to see that type of pushback. They even said, we need up the physicality in this game. That's what they said ahead of game number 2 this morning. And, mission accomplished. And guess what happened? Walked away with the victory. Series all tied up. Now you head down to Tampa Bay. And hopefully they can pick up a win down there and come back with either a 3-1 or another tied series. But if they can pick up a win down there, then they reclaim home ice advantage. And that is going to be the goal when they come back to Toronto for game number 5, which is guaranteed, by the way. Game 5 is now guaranteed. So go get your tickets. Everyone, get out there. Another home game. Guaranteed another home game in Toronto. All right, buddy. That'll do it for us here today on the podcast. I'd like to thank you all for listening and supporting the show. You can subscribe to the Locked On Leafs podcast on all podcasts and platforms to receive daily Leafs content. Follow myself on Twitter at Mickey_Canuck. Follow Dave at D_Morassutti. We'll be back to another episode on Monday. Enjoy game number 3 tomorrow. Until then, keep it locked right here on Locked On Leafs.